welcome to our May 21st, 2019 Board of Commissioners briefing. Mr. Cromartie, you have the invocation.
Thank you.
Pledge of allegiance be led by Commissioner Aycock.
Mr. Chairman, before we say the pledge, I just want, since Memorial Day is coming up, I want to say a couple of words before we do the pledge.
Okay. All right. And then we have the approval of the minutes and discussion adjustment agenda. Mr. Honeycutt, you have anything?
I do have one thing. It is a budget amendment that we would like to add. I'll pass this out. As the board is aware, we've been working with the community college with respect to their loop project that controls their HVAC system. It is a steam system. They're having major repairs to that system at this point. They're averaging about $160,000 a year just in maintenance on the system to repair this loop. And in working with the community college, they have, I believe, special approval from the state to move forward with this project. And the project is $1 million or so. But the thought process was, instead of spending $160-some thousand a year annually, go ahead and fix the loop as it needs to be done so we can take some of that maintenance out of the upcoming year's budget.
So, Ms. Spate, would it be safe to put it as 32-4?
Oh, for the, you
Budget.
need a page number?
Uh-huh.
Will that work for you, Carol, to add it on as 32? I guess it would be B.
B, I mean, I'm sorry. Oh, I said
Would
that.
that be okay, Carol? Okay, so we can group it in with the rest of my budget amendments.
Right.
That'll be fine with me.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
I
Mr.
got
Stover.
to inquire on this. One, it's a total budget up to $1 million.
Yes, sir.
Secondly, they would be putting this out for bids.
Yes, sir.
And evidently, we are just going to take this out of our reserves.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask one little question.
Okay.
What exactly are they replacing? I mean, I see that, I see this
They have
$1 million, but what are they
They have a
replacing?
steam system for their loop, for their heating system. And it's a 30-year lifespan, and it's right at the end of the 30 years,
All right, but they've been spending $150,000 each year.
just to repair, yes, sir.
And I was curious as to know exactly what it is they're repairing. And I hear you all describe it as a trunk. And that's so that it's designed
Right.
for the heating and air conditioning to circulate
Yeah,
through this.
cool water and hot
Cool.
and steam, yes, sir.
And the question still remains, what would you repair for $150,000 a year that wouldn't last? That's what I'm just curious of.
From my understanding is the pipes that the steam and the water is going through is just basically collapsing.
And so they replace a section of that pipe every year for some of that $150,000?
Because it's collapsing, and my understanding as well, they've almost had to close the school down, especially during the winter months, because of not being able to have enough heat from the system. Because when you have a break, the whole system fails.
So there comes a break in the trunk, and over some period of time, they've been spending $150,000 so to replace some parts of that trunk. I mean, it's just curious to me that at some point the trunk would have been replaced by $150,000 spent every year on it.
I think it's more Band-Aids, what they've been doing, not a lot of the replacement of the system. So just trying to get in and get out and fix.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Go ahead, Joe.
No.
Okay. Did we decide, or does the college know, is there any kind of grants or monies available to help out with this?
I think they have looked, but since the county is really responsible for the facilities out there, it really kind of falls back on to our shoulders.
Yeah, I know it has to be done because we've been pushing this can down the road since I've been on the board. But as you probably already know, my concern is taking it out of our fund
Yes, sir.
balance. No other place it can come from.
No, it really is. And again, we talked about as a budgetary expenditure in next year's budget, but it's one of those things is 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It would have to come from fund balance from the budget, or it would have to come from the fund balance now.
Now, are they going to replace, Wayne, you might know this, are they going to replace the whole
loop.
Yeah.
The whole loop?
Whole loop.
Right.
That's the key right there.
The whole loop.
Okay.
And I was going to sit here and not say anything, but yes, there's been a lot of money in the last several years spent on repairing. But keep in mind now, when they repair a section, all they doing, it may not be but 2 foot long. It's not like they're going in there and fixing 30, 40, 50 feet at a time. I mean, when you go in, we keep from digging that campus all to pieces, all they're fixing is where it's leaking at.
Yep.
Well, and the positive thing about this as well, I think originally, and I think, go back to your point about this project being kicked down the road a little bit, I think they were projecting this to be about a $2 million project. Now they're saying, coming back and re-looking at it, and it is the $1 million. So, but we would make sure that they do bid. And if there's any savings from the project, that would come back to the county.
I mean, you really ain't got to worry about whether it's going to be done right or not,
Right.
because it's got to go through state
Yes, sir.
construction. And we've all been through state construction, and
It
make you pull your hair out.
yes, sir.
I mean, it's already made you lose part of yours.
Yes, sir. It
And
has.
it will be, this is up and up and on the board now.
Yes, sir. But-
Okay.
But if this is agreeable, we would put this as part of the budget amendments moving forward.
I call for a vote, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Aycock made a motion to add it to the agenda. All in favor, please signify, raise your right hand.
Adding it back to. And that's all I have at this point. Thanks.
Any board member have anything to add to the agenda? If not, Mr. Honeycutt, you'll start with special presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First is a motion to approve proclamation and presentation plaque honoring Sudie Davis. And I think Doug will be here to read that. Then we have a presentation from Jennifer Polk with the NC Works Career Center. And then a presentation of the Wayne County United Soccer Club U13 team. That is a team that is looking at going to state and possibly national. So,
Good deal. Okay, then we have public comments, and then next will be unfinished business. And I think you are prepared to.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to turn that over to Chip. And I do want to, before Chip says that, we, as the board's aware, we've been looking at EMS billing companies. We interviewed 6 companies. We actually went out and visited 2 agencies that were dealing with the final 2 companies, and we do have a recommendation about how we can move our billing process to a different company. And so Chip will make that presentation.
Okay, then consent agenda, we'll start with budget amendments. Ms. Spake.
Your first budget amendment is for Board of Elections. This is to reallocate funds to fund a position. It was for a period of about 3 months, and that position is no longer filled right now, but we are reallocating from existing line items. For 4-H, we are requesting to appropriate a donation in the amount of $2,550 for the robotics program for the 4-H club. For the sheriff's office, we're requesting to anticipate and appropriate an additional $922.29 for their controlled substance monies. We have another budget amendment for 4-H, and this is also a donation in the memory of Alton Cox to be used for their special program supplies. There are two grouped together. These are both for the Maxwell Center, numbers 450 and 451. I just grouped these together because both of these are being increased in revenues in their user fees. And this is an offset to the additional cost of laundry services and overtime. It's really just a direct cost of the additional events and bookings and things like that, and that will be covered in their fees they charge the customers. So I'm on number 456 for wages. These are additional monies from HCCBG. This is a grant program, and we serve kind of as a pass-through for this. So they've received additional funds, and we're anticipating that. For the tax office, requesting to reallocate $10,600. This is for the vehicle tax and tag program. The credit card fees, the state administers that program, and we do not have any control over those fees. So we've had to allocate more to that line item. For social services, they are requesting to increase their postage line item. The postage rates increased in January, and they've also started charging that department for return mail, so that's increased their postage expenditure. They are taking it out of an existing line item they had some excess in. Have another one for social services, reallocating funds from the foster care line item to boarding care. These are fees set by the state, and I think they've increased over the years, so they've had to allocate more money to that. Number 476 is also for social services. They're requesting to reallocate monies for additional professional services in the amount of $35,000. And these are legal services that just with additional child support cases and things like that, we've had additional costs with that. And then for the health department, we have a reallocation in the amount of $15,235. This is a grant-funded program. They have to spend these monies by the end of this month, by the end of May, and they are reallocating from salaries, which we don't typically do, but the person they had is no longer employed there. They had short notice, so they need to use those grant funds in another line item so that those don't have to be returned unused. And they're requesting to use that for additional Narcan kits for the opioid program. And then you added on the number 435 with Wayne Community College, but we've already reviewed that one. That's all I have.
Next will be the resolution for the fireworks display at Brooklyn Mall.
Very standard, just giving permission under general statute to the city of Goldsboro.
And it has been approved by the city.
Yeah.
And next is the resolution to census count.
Basically, and Barry is here, that we're just partnering with the census to make sure we get a good and accurate count.
Mr. Chairman, do we generally have a resolution to that effect every 10 years? I mean, because undoubtedly, that's a foregone conclusion. We want it accurate.
It is. It just formally puts it into.
Okay.
And the Board of Adjustment public hearing for June 18th for the solar farm.
Well,
Barry.
Good morning. This is a solar energy facility. This is out on Herring Road, which is, and it's actually just near the intersection with Highway 13 South. But this is about 67 acres out of a 200 and something acre tract that's being developed into a solar facility. It sits kind of well off the road. There's a lot of natural vegetation around it. There is one subdivision nearby, but luckily it does not directly abut this this project. Whatever gap there is in between there, the applicant's going to be putting in some buffer and so forth. Anyway, this one has been through all the requirements so far in terms of decommissioning plans, appraisals. The applicant has met all of the requirements thus far for the ordinance. And we're at this point asking that this board set a public hearing next month so that we can advertise, send notices to property owners and so forth. So that's what we're asking for today.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
why would this be a special use permit requirement?
This is in the Seymour Johnson's overlay district for their impact area. So in this case, since it is in that area, it does come before you as a special use. We did send it to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base for them to look at to see if there is any sort of negative impact. And they did respond back and say that, that there was no negative impact with this project for the Air Force Base. But because of that, it fits into that category.
Okay.
So it was triggered because of Seymour Johnson, but it's not a problem.
That's right. That's right.
Chairman.
Yes.
So they're not required to use the non-reflective panel in that?
No, Seymour Johnson looks at that when they review the applications to see if there's going to be any impact to their aircraft flying over with glare. And in this case, they did not request anything different than what was proposed. So they had no concern with glare in this site. So
I just hope we're not missing the boat here because there was a big discussion about that, a few years ago.
Right.
About reflectors. So I just hope it don't come back years from now,
Right.
Okay.
One last thing, I'm just curious. If we're establishing a public hearing for the public to come, but Seymour Johnson is the only one that it affects, and they said not a problem, who do you expect to come?
Well, there are some neighboring property owners who may have some questions or, may want some additional information about the project, or there may be some impact that we're not aware of to neighboring properties. So in this case, it's always good to have those property owners notified so they at least will be informed. So that's a lot of what this process is. It's just information for the public so they know kind of what's going on. And if there is an
I think you
impact.
answered my, it's more than just Seymour Johnson.
It
You're
is.
covering the bases by sending the letter out to all the property owners who it could affect.
Right, Seymour
So some of
Johnson.
them could come.
Yeah, Seymour
All right.
Johnson kicks it into category for special use, but there are other impacts possibly to neighbors that we want to keep in mind.
Thank you, Barry.
All right, thank you.
Next, Mr. Honeycutt, is the work authorization for the Crawford property.
Yes, sir. As the board is aware, we've been kind of working on this for a while. We brought property out at the Jetport called the Crawford property back in 2010, and we've been trying to get reimbursement on that. I will want to thank WK Dixon for the work that they've done, and also our Airport Advisory Commission done a good job pushing to finally get this pushed through so we could get our funding back for that purchase. And it's about a $9,000 grant administration, but again, we can charge back 90% of this to the grant that we receive.
Okay. And next, the Amnesty Days proclamation.
As the board's well, and I believe I've sent an email about this, one of the things that we have done annually is in the spring and the fall, have 2 days of amnesty at the landfill. Basically, it's a spring and a fall cleanup, allowing our citizens to come and not charge them. It's kind of a free day. Usually that is a day that has to be approved by the Board of Commissioners. This spring, we let the date slip through the cracks and it was not approved by the Board of Commissioners. And then I've talked to the chairman, and since it was one of these annual things that we've always done, we went ahead and did it. But to cover us in the future, we wanted to go ahead and just pass a resolution and saying in the spring and in the fall there will be 2 days. So that kind of gives us that blanket amnesty days that we don't have to come back to the board each time to ask for that approval.
And next, we have the application for the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council.
Yes, sir.
Before that, you have the motion to approve cancellation.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
We, since hopefully, and I'll put hopefully in quotes, the budget will be passed by July 2nd. Usually that's the week of July 4th, and we're closed July 4th. That the board would cancel the July 2nd meeting. And then the number 8, funding for application for Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. This is something we do on an annual basis. We are a pass-through form.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
It was brought to my attention that under this grant in Lenore County, that the match is 10%, whereas in Wayne County it's 20%. Could we request that this grant match in kind, or the local match be reduced to the 10% versus 20%? I think it's a state thing that they require. And I don't know, we actually checked into that to find out whether or not it was a tier 1 like in Lenore County versus tier 2 that we used to be. And they're saying no, but if we could check into that to see.
Well done.
Thank you.
All right.
Now we got a new business.
New business, we'll have Ted Cole here with Davenport, and Davenport is our financial advisors who really looks at our financial standing, helps us with our budget and our CIP. So Ted will be over that and where we're at with respect to our fiscal policies. And then number 2, I will present, you have in front of you the 6 inches of county budget for the 1920 fiscal year, and it'll be just an introduction to the budget. As the board is also aware, we have workshops scheduled for next Wednesday and Thursday.
And number 3.
Number 3 would be, once we hopefully get through the budget, we'll set the public hearing for our next meeting, which will be June 4th, 2019 at 9:30 a.m. At that point, we'll take comment, and we're looking at the possible approval of our budget by June 20th, which will be the next meeting afterwards.
So, Mr. Chairman, so if I'm understanding, after the public hearing, we may or may not approve it at that point?
Yes, sir. If there's no changes, if we come back and, through the workshop and there's some changes made and we present it June 4th and everybody's happy, after the public hearing, you can approve the budget.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So,
We'll be having a closed session.
yes, sir.
Prior to the closed session, we do have Mr. Pate, who is watching the live stream, and he would like to participate in the closed session via telephone, if that is acceptable by the board. And if so, we would need to make a motion that you will allow him to participate in closed session by telephone, and then we can do so.
Do we not use Skype? I just had to ask. I'm good.
He's
I
not
so
in,
move, Mr.
he's not in New Jersey.
Chairman. He's not in New Jersey.
A motion by Commissioner Daugherty. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please signify by raising your right hand.
Mr. Chairman, the purpose of your closed session is to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of businesses in Wayne County, to consider the qualifications of a public employee, and to consult with your attorney to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
Motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand.